はい。フリーランサーアーティストとして生きると題してトークが始まりますので、どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。
Hello, everybody. Hello. Thanks, everybody, for coming to chat. First chat. It's the first talk, the first chat. We're going to be talking for about an hour, and we are going to discuss a few questions which I've gathered from various people on these cards, and then after that I'll turn it over to you guys and you can ask everyone some questions. We'll start with introductions. My name is Greg McNee. I live in Kobe and I'm a freelance artist and self-publisher. I have a table over here that's all blue so you can't miss it. I'll pass the mic down the road and everyone can introduce themselves.
Hello. I'm Luis Mendo. I was trying to write in Japanese. I'm Luis Mendo. I'm an ex-graphic designer and a drawer illustrator now. I used to just in Japan.
Hi, I'm Rob Kidney. I'm from the UK and I've been here in Tokyo for 13 years. I'm a freelance illustrator and I run a gallery in Tokyo.
Hi, I'm Adrian. I'm from Australia. I've been in Tokyo 3 years and working as a freelance illustrator. And I've done a few other things around Japan as well. But
Hello, I'm Ian Linus. I'm a graphic designer, design teacher, writer.
Okay, so I've gathered a few questions from various people about freelance work. So I'm just going to read these random and we're going to discuss them. And feel free to jump in, talk to each other, interrupt each other as much as possible. Okay, the first question we have is, do you work from home or do you have a studio?
I used to work from home, and now I work from a share office. It's called Midoriso. There's two venues. There's one in Omotesando, which I think a lot of people know about because it's a space called Commune 246. But their other venue is in Aobadai, which is behind Don Quixote in Nakameguro. And it's got about 100 members. And they do all kinds of things. It's not just design, it's restaurant owners, film producers, PR companies, and it was the reason why I joined this space was that I had been working from home and from different cafes and things, but was just looking for more of a work community to be around with every day. And I'm an only child, so I'm used to working by myself, but I think it's always great if you can share the experience with others.
I live in a house. The first floor is the office. The second floor is our home. But I teach at two universities and I have desks at those universities too. So it's kind of weird. Like, they have 3 desks that I work from. I really hate co-working spaces. I hate listening to other people's music. And very selfish at my time.
Yeah, I've got 2 spaces I work. One is in the gallery. We've got like a little studio area in the gallery and we work there. And the other one's deep in the countryside, in the middle of the rice field. So basically I can blast the music as loud as I want, which is perfect. So there I've got screen printing gear and I can make as much mess as possible. Working in the gallery I thought would be great, but a lot of people come in and I get disturbed, so it's not so much flow. But so having the place to retreat in the countryside is perfect.
Where is it? Where is the countryside?
Deep in Saitama. Truly in the middle of the rice fields, yeah.
I used to work at home for maybe 1 year or something. I realized that I was becoming a very strange person. I didn't want to go out. And Adrian was always telling me, like, dude, I don't know, like, if I was you, I would feel like a fish in a bowl. And I always thought, no, but it's, it's cheap, but it's nice, and I have everything clothes, and I can be in my pajama all day. But one day I found out that being in a studio is better, so now I share a studio with 5 people in Chiyoda, and that's really good. It's much better.
Do you find you become a lot more productive since you moved into the studio?
Not more productive because I'm very easily distracted, but I do get a lot of connections. Like Adrian, there's people coming in, clients of my co-workers, and then they see my work and they end up giving me assignments or just meeting them and having meeting new people, which is always good. So yeah, the interaction becomes more productive at the end.
Adrian, do you feel like you've had a lot of work come through the shared studio? 25 people, it must be a lot.
Yeah, in my studio there's 2 floors and there's about, every day there's maybe about 20 to 25 people in there. I tend to do a lot of my meetings during the day and my actual creation part of my work happens at either the very beginning of the day or at night. So I guess some of the things that you mentioned about there being music and things like that doesn't affect me so much because I'm still there by myself. But having all those people and those distractions come in was actually really great at the beginning because it opened up my network and maybe some of the work that I'm doing now. Some of the work that I've been doing now is because of people I've met 3 or 4 years ago, right at the beginning of my time here. But actually, I was already working. I had a pretty good network before I joined the space. But I guess the variety of work I was doing, as well as just the co-working space has a good reputation. So I guess some people, if they didn't know my work, they at least knew the space, and the co-working space is like an endorsement of the work I was doing. I felt so sort of the name memory sort of helps somewhat.
So can I ask actually just for your freelance work, where's a lot of the work coming from? Do you have an agent, or is it coming through your website or through connections?
Holy Mary.
Holy Mary.
Yeah, I think with someone like myself, I had an agent in London before I left. It was with an agency called Big Active, and I worked with them for 2 years. But when I came to Japan, I just arrived with a suitcase and just basically took my work out there, kind of cold calling, and it worked for the first year, or the first and second year. Then suddenly it stopped. There was a big kind of drop off.
When was that? Was that after the race or something?
No, I came here first 2003. So yeah, 2003, 4, 5. I had a group show at Parco, doing a lot of work, and then suddenly it stopped. And I panicked and thought about getting an agent and didn't do it. And then the work started coming in again. Basically, for me, it was companies seeing work I'd done and then asking for the same kind of thing for their brand. So just kind of like dominoes, I guess, that kind of thing.
Do you have any advice for cold calling? Do you have any advice for how to do cold calling in Japan?
For me, I went with the raw work, not in a plastic folder. Had it in a kind of pizza box and just got it out and put it on the table so people could touch it, smell it, feel it.
But how do you get an appointment? You just went in, or you called before?
I was going to a lot of bars where I knew kind of creative art directors would be, and then just putting things on a table with a business card, just having a little packet always in my bag to give to people. And that worked. Then go and have a more kind of professional meeting after that. Yeah.
I'm very curious how cold calling has worked for you guys, if it has.
Okay, so there we go. So I'd like to answer this with a story. So there was a graphic designer named Hank Ellicott. He's still around. He lives in Russia now. he lived in the Netherlands and he decided to move to Los Angeles. And this was like mid 1980s. He was, how do I get work? I don't know anyone in America. So he just thought about what do rich people do? And that's really smart, just in terms of targeting clients. I don't know, when I moved here, I just tried to figure out what people with money do here. And a lot of that revolves around luxury things such as cars, which I have no interest in driving. But then like wine and very nice single malt whiskeys are luxury items that are attainable and you can enter them. There's the Royal Single Malt Whiskey Society here, where it's filled with affluent people. So you go, you have some drinks, you relax, you throw business cards around. Hopefully if you're nuts business cards, people remember you. It's just a matter of being strategic.
I tried a few things when I arrived here. I think there were a couple of emails that I just out of the blue sent to a few magazines and got no response from it. So I realized pretty quickly that a lot of the things that in Australia that's quite common, and perhaps to meet people before work for a good coffee is not too unusual, but I realized here that in my experience, a lot of the work I've received has been through a personal introduction, or just maybe with like Rob, just something out of the blue. Like for example, I was at Chiyoda train station one day just drawing my sketchbook, and there was a person who was wearing a hat that I thought looked interesting, so I drew that, and she knew that I drew her, so when I got on the train line, she asked if she could see it. Unfortunately, she liked it, so we exchanged business cards, and that was like one of my first jobs here, drawing for a fashion company at Vogue's Fashion Night Out in the Multisando. And then just from that, like someone saw that, and I got more from that. It sort of snowballs so far, organically, things have grown.
And I think maybe a lot of people are interested to know if you get a lot of work just through your website, just people seeing online portfolios, social media, and stuff like that. Does that bring work at all?
Some, but like I personally, I'm a graphic designer. I'm not an illustrator, but I do some illustration. It's more figuring out how do you diversify. So my income is from design teaching, graphic design commissions, royalties from fonts, and that's really great because you design a font once and you keep getting income from it. And that used to be a very arcane and mysterious thing, but now with the gates are open, it's quite easy to do that. So you can generate your own work as well, and then self-publishing. I write books and zines and whatnot as well. So it's always good just to stay busy, even if clients aren't coming through the door.
I think it's a mix of channels. Like the website is important to have. It's kind of a niche. It's just kind of a confirmation that it exists and that you are a professional and considered a stylist. But the most important will be a mix. Meet people everywhere. Have a proper portfolio on Instagram. Have a proper artist page on Facebook. And all that will help to bring in clients. I think the website only will not be enough.
Yeah, I think for me, I work in a very analog way. And I think I want people to see my work and, as you said, touch it. Opening the gallery and having a space there to show my work, meeting surrounded by my work, has been really a great thing for me because online-wise, it just wasn't happening at all. So I was a bit frightened, but having the gallery has changed that, having a physical space. It's in Tawatan, deep Tokyo, Tawatan. But yeah, that's one of the things Louis mentioned earlier about being in a studio and possibly losing your social skills. And since I've had the gallery, I meet people face to face, which is exciting rather than being hidden in the studio for weeks.
I guess each year I put out 3 calls like that, just through my website for a commission. Nearly everything else is someone I've met at some point personally.
Can I ask about those of you with agents? Like, do they find a lot of work for you? How does it? Do you recommend looking for an agent?
I don't have an agent, so Louis, you know,
Okay, I'm the only one with an agent. So I have actually two agents, one in Tokyo and one in New York. And I must say, they'll bring a lot of work, really not much. I don't know, maybe it's the clients don't like my work. It has nothing to do with the agent, maybe. But I think that nowadays, the function and the utility of an agent is getting more and more questionable. And you will ask, like, do I really need someone to correctly represent me? If you are good at what I said, the website and Instagram and everything, this will be fine. The agent is just for maybe old-fashioned clients that don't search on Instagram, don't search around, and they just want to go to an agent, show me some portfolios, okay, choose one, I brief you. But that's, that's some kind of client that is very specific.
I wonder if we can talk a little bit about kind of the legal side of things, like if you're working by yourself without an agent, like, do you have any advice or stories about preparing all the paperwork yourself? You know, like invoices, contracts, quotes for clients, and that kind of thing.
I mean, for me, most of the work I've done has been through an art director, and they've helped me sort out all those kind of things. And I think I learned very quickly, in about the first month I was in Japan, I had a meeting with a company, a fashion brand, and sat around the table with 10 guys, and I was showing my work, and they said, can we keep one of your sketchbooks, because we're interested in looking at some of the motifs and possibly developing them. And a week later, I got a phone call to go back, and it actually printed fabric and started to make a collection from my sketchbook, which included personal telephone numbers, people's addresses, actually in the print. And it was made up into garments. So I learned very quickly that you do need to make sure you got all the paperwork.
Don't leave the sketchbook.
Yeah, how I was going to do, don't leave the sketchbook there. That was I was happy because they'd made these rolls of fabric and made beautiful garments, but a lot of the people whose telephone numbers were wrong, they had to change their numbers. So that was, it's just kind of steep learning curve.
I've learned a lot of things just through trial and error. I've learned a lot of things through just trial and error. So one of the first things I learned was just how to do tax in Japan. It's a different system to Australia, and at the beginning I get invoices rejected by the accounts department in the company, and I'm like, why? And sort of eventually I found an accountant and was able to get some of those things sorted. The contracts I had made in Australia weren't necessarily applicable here because Japanese law is different. So some of those are very recent. But usually smaller clients, because you work with them so often, the contracts tend to be just an email form rather than a signed document, unless it's like a bigger client. But some of the magazine work I do on basically just a monthly payroll or a regular job, and those things are a lot more smooth. But certainly, since the Olympic Games logo fiasco, it's been much easier to talk about copyright and intellectual property than it was the first year I was here. You might have more about this stuff.
Yeah, so I think the main thing, if you're working in a digital environment, look at your desktop on your computer. Is it a fucking mess? Are there JPEGs all over the place? That's not good. You need to just have a folder called work that syncs to the cloud somehow, and then everything's broken down by client name, project number. And same thing if you're working in an analog fashion, you need to have a neat working space. I dated an architect for about a year, and she always said I was tidy but not clean. And that's enough, you know, just as long as you have discrete files of your bullshit and you know, like, this drawings for this client, I can charge for that. I mean, it really starts at the basics. If your desktop, either physical, analog, or digital desktop is a mess, just clean it up, do a little, just break the corners.
I want to say, I think the most important thing when doing all the, the administration that comes with designing and the drawing is that the most important thing is to keep it simple. I have been a freelancer for maybe 15 years. I think I signed one contract. I mean, I never do a contract. You just talk to the person in the email, everything is written down on the email, so you don't need to sign a contract. And signing a contract before, to me, is a sign that there is some mistrust. You don't trust me, I don't trust you, so we sign a contract in case something goes wrong, because something is going to go wrong. And that feeling, I only had it when I bought my house, and it was a shit feeling. I don't want to give that to my clients, I want to have it when I'm going to start a relationship with a client, so I don't have contracts. And sometimes things go wrong, and then you just, you talk about it, and you say, okay, how am I going to solve it? And sometimes you lose, sometimes you win. Hey, that's life. I don't want to be in active contracts and writing them or signing them for every job I do, because then I would not be designing. I'm all day in the email and in the phone. Imagine if I have to do contracts with every client, it would be hell. So I agree with you very much. I like to keep it tight.
Okay. This after a while you get like certain templates almost, and you you can just reuse that over and over again and just change certain terminology. But yeah, at the beginning it's a process of learning through trial and error, figuring it out. That's really
That's interesting questions.
So here's a question that was sent to me. It was a lot of clients, when they contact you at first, they'll have a vague kind of idea of what they want, but they can't really describe it well, or they have trouble. And do you have a kind of system or any advice for how to get clients to tell you what kind of thing they want for you?
Get them drunk.
No, I think make as many questions as you can. I think that works. Like, make questions and then also make questions of, things that are obscure to you, just answer with the question, come up with an answer, because sometimes if you ask them, oh, do you have some kind of color palette you want to use? They don't know. But then if you say, do you like pink? Then with an answer you will know, oh yeah, I can use pink. So sometimes you have to make the answer explicit for the question, and that helps a lot.
Another thing to do potentially as well, I do a lot of interior design projects now, and I mean the budgets are pretty big, and I don't know, but usually technology corporations will want something, but they don't know what. And the budget's big enough that I can spend a day putting together an inspiration document where I'll just be like, look at all these different people's work, what do you feel like you gravitate toward? And then I don't knock off the style, but it gives me a sense they want something in this realm. It's more abstract, it's less pictorial. They want muted colors or bright colors, typography, no typography. It just starts setting some boundaries.
I think for me, when I'm working, especially for fashion companies, I provide a lot of sketches, a lot of roughs before I start to work on the finished pieces, because sometimes we are completely on a different page to what they want. I learned again early on, I produced some work, I was so happy when the company was nodding, we had meeting after meeting, and then I got the email saying, we don't like any of it. Can you draw something that looks like Jean-Michel Basquiat's work? And then I did that, and they said, actually, that's too much like his work. And so now I do a lot of sketches, a lot of roughs, until we really get exactly what they want. And that seems to work most of the time. And getting them ready to provide like a kind of mood board of the things they want. And then I can physically see the kind of things they're after.
Have the rest of you as well have that experience where you've done a lot of the work and you've given them your ideas and they're just like, no, thank you, we don't want this. And how do you deal with that?
Sometimes, I mean, if that happens, it's that because you didn't listen well or they didn't explain enough, but if they didn't explain enough, you didn't make the right questions. But it can happen after all. And I think in that case, the thing you have to ask yourself is, well, is it worth it or not? You know, the pace of the student or what happened here. But the most important thing is that you are not afraid to kill your darlings. So, you know, don't be afraid to scrap it all off the table and start all over again. Because sometimes you learn a lot in the process and you get a better piece on the process. So that's not bad. Don't cling into your ideas. Because this is something, especially designers, do a lot. Again, this is my idea. I don't want to kill. Well, you know, ideas are free. You can have so many as you want. There's not that shower and you have more, 4 or 5 more. But don't cling to it.
I've had that happen a couple of times where it seems like the project's about to finish and then actually perhaps the head guy who hasn't been hands-on suddenly comes back to work and they're seeing it going, oh, what is this? But generally, like I think it's like Rob, like if you provide people options at the beginning, then it's sort of just the gradual refinement until you get to the final result.
Sometimes they really don't know what I want.
Yeah.
They know my name, they know, oh, you did that cover, we really like that. And they expect me to kind of fill the gaps, which is great, because sometimes it looks exactly how I want it, and at the end, they're like, yeah, that's what we wanted. Yeah, okay, that's good. Everyone's happy at the end. So, yeah, sometimes I kind of take the reins.
Do you, because I do there's one style that I usually push, but I do many different styles. I have a background in graphic design, so usually for a larger project, I think Lewis is a bit like this too. We don't usually think of an illustration as a single picture. It's like trying to find a way to package it into something bigger. So you might be creating for example, I did a store design for Tomorrowland back in January, and it was a mural. Originally, they just wanted a mural, but we extended that across all inside the store as well, and doing mannequin designs and things too. But it was sort of starting with the key image, which was the illustration, and applying that across various things. But when I did that project, I presented like 3 really different styles, and then they picked the one that they thought was most appropriate for their brand, and we refined it from there. But it was always clear I think that was that one was the best, but showing the performance options too, so that I think people feel like they had some agency in where the project was going. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm giving all this to this guy to do.
When you're handing the client your final work and you maybe have like 3 options like this, and there's one that you really like, and other techniques too.
You can bet your money that we choose the one you don't like. So don't. I mean, I didn't ask it, but I don't really like to do that. Like 3 different ideas that are very different, and then you can choose one. I try not to do that. And about what you were saying before about somebody comes in after all the work is done and they say, oh, I don't like it, change it. You know, it's important that when you do a job, have the decision makers on the table. And in Japan it's really hard, I know, but try to have people that really have decision voice. Because otherwise it will be, you know, fear is very strong, and they will always be afraid to do something because what the boss may say or the not say. So it's important to have the decision makers.
I think the other thing too is like the realm of graphic design is a little bit different, but I don't think so. Essentially, you'll present a range of options at the beginning, and then they'll be like, oh, we like that, and then you refine that. So, yeah, I mean, that's just a standard process. You know, at the end of the day, at the end of a project, you shouldn't be presenting 3 options. There should just be one, usually agreed upon.
Yeah, one point I was thinking is, have any of you got to the point where it's gone so far away from the way you work because it keeps changing, and can you develop that idea and that style, and by the end it looks nothing like you, you're not happy with it, and suddenly it's like, let's do it, and then it'll be on a billboard, it'll be on products, and you don't want to show it, you don't want to put it on your portfolio. Again, if people are happy.
When that happens, do you privatize that work? Like, do you have a collection that nobody's really seen?
I'll include it, but a very small picture of it.
That's the name of the client. That's the name of the client. Well, I work for these guys.
Especially if it's a big client, yeah.
So we often see that website, so that's what that's all about, like section banks.
Yeah, it's usually my peers and people back in England contact me and say, bro, what happened? Are you sick? What are you doing? Were you ill? Sorry, I have to apologize.
I always feel that, you know, any company, you know, not every project you do is going to be a killer increase. And some you just have to pay the bills with. And, you know, if they're paying enough, you know, like I feel like illustration isn't fine art, so well, part of it is commercial, and that involves other people making decisions in the project. It's not exclusively yours, so knowing that from the beginning, I think makes it, like Lee said, just easy to kill your darlings. And not worry. I mean, there's always like. There's a professional standards which guarantees something will look, but I mean, you know, you always know in your own mind if something will be better or not, but I think it's ensuring that, you know, at least basic standards are correct, so you don't walk away from it.
I think it has to do a lot with how you approach your job. Like you approach your job as an artist or as a live artist. And you know, me being a designer before, I met as a live artist. So I'm here to tell the story of the client, and you know, to communicate his message or their message. And as such, I don't really care so much about my ideas, and I just try my talent should be in how to translate his ideas or their ideas into something graphic. So I don't really, I don't really claim anything I make. It's just like a communal collaboration product. But that's my take on it.
But sometimes you'll get projects where you really don't want your name associated with it. Like, a friend of a friend is very, she's part of the Silicon Valley tech startup world, and she basically wanted to start Facebook with booze. Just basically make a Facebook, and a lot of tech people, and it created these other pornography. There's no penetration, but like, what do you do? She's got a lot of money, so I just said I would like double what I normally ask, and I don't want my name on anything. Done. Sometimes money trumps everything. And I don't have a problem with that morally or ethically, so it's just I don't want to be known as the guy who did that stuff.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Ian, because over the last 3 years I've mainly been working in kids fashion, from newborns to teenagers, and the work is heavily branded with my name and certain characters. And I've been asked to do other projects which were quite dark, quite sexual, and I had to refuse to do that because my name is so attached to certain kids' brands, they're quite well known, and I just can't risk it. I can't risk those big jobs with loads of beautiful work for one small
How
job.
about doing like a pseudonym, like a nickname for that?
That's right. Yeah, I have done that in the past. Yeah, but someone always finds out.
Yeah, of course.
Someone said, sends it. Is this your work? I feel something of you in it. And I'm like, don't tell anyone.
Reminds me of a story of a friend of mine in Spain. There were 2 friends, and they were pushing the comics to publishers all the time for years, and they never got published. So they came up with this idea of writing as 2 girls, hello, we are Monica and Beatriz, and we are making these comics, and they're all very sexual. What do you think about it? And it was a huge success, because they were supposed to be two guys. So they interviewed their sisters, and the sisters played the role of, yeah, we are the authors, but actually my sisters. And they created the whole thing, but very, very, like, really, only a couple of friends knew who were the real ones. So maybe this is a good way.
I was just thinking, talking about doing work for a kids brand. I think it's something, it's a high-end kids brand that we're working for. And it's definitely something that doesn't exist back in the UK. And I think, I was wondering if you guys working in Tokyo specifically, do you think you're doing different kinds of work than if you'd be back home in different areas? Or just for the work I was doing back in the UK was far more typical illustration work. But here, I'm doing murals, I'm doing costumes for bands. It's far more, I don't know. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of things I wouldn't be doing
I think it's
back
very
in the UK.
What do you guys think? I mean, it's very Japan. Like, I think that, Ian, if you were working in US now, do you think that they would call you for interior projects?
Sorry.
If you were working in the US, do you think they would call you for interior design projects?
But I don't think it's because of the context, it's just happenstance, like how things evolve.
Do you think in Japan is more than in other countries?
Yeah, I think, the connections you make are stronger. When you're essentially an outsider in a different culture, people want different things from you. I mean, if I decided to move, I'm from New York, if I decided to move back to New York tomorrow, I would have to start over, and he would be like, oh, that's the dude who lived in Gokyo for 12 years.
Like if you go to New York and you show your phone work, your typography work, probably you will only get calls for that kind of work.
Exactly.
Because when I was in Holland, I was only making magazines. And maybe a couple of logos, that's it. And here they call me for logos, magazines, websites, illustration, like the whole spectrum. Interiors, posture. So I think in here people is more open. And if they like your style, they will call you for, oh, can you make t-shirts too?
I think the other thing is that every time you move or you're in a different context, it's a chance for change. So like Luis moved here as a designer, interested in illustration, and became a full-time illustrator. So that's just one big thing whenever you decide to make the move. It's a chance to kind of reinvent yourself, and that's something that people don't take advantage of very often.
Do you guys think about personal branding? Like how you present your body for kind of outside things, for example, logos, certain typefaces, for example, on your paperwork, that kind of thing? And do you think that helps?
I don't think of personal branding, but everything has my name attached to it, so at some point, like the clients usually used to work with, I think you're endorsing them, and so you do have the right to sustain notes in those clients. But I mean, in terms of an opportunity I've had here that I probably didn't have as much in Australia was doing live events, and like actually standing in front of a work equipment here, which I didn't do as much in Australia, and now here there's a lot more opportunities to interact directly with customers at a store or show the actual process of making, which is exciting to me. But actually then your people skills become really important, and how you present yourself to not necessarily just your clients, but to their audience as well becomes important. So I guess, I don't really think of personal branding, but I do think of like what am I comfortable with, what things are you willing to work with, or how much of yourself are you willing to expose by doing live events.
I think it really is a choice, not only in Japan, it's everywhere, it's a choice of yourself. Like, I think what you do now is like so recognizable, even when you just do your signing with IGM, it's like fuck, it's so you. It's I mean, I change all the time, and maybe that's my trademark. I change continuously.
I was just thinking of that question because you have such a distinctive logo, the handful one, which is
Yeah, but I
really great.
sign it with my hand as well.
But it looks like the same signature. It's like you put a lot of work into that. It's on your, it was on your own business.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't think too much about it. Maybe because I made so many logos in my life, and I actually don't like to make logos. I try to change my own. I don't know. Oh yeah.
I think it should be standard to have consistency in terms of how you present yourself, in terms of just, specific logos or families of fonts or whatever and color. But then, in terms of how you take that further, so, my business cards are both letterpress and they have blind embossing and then some metallic foil. So when I give them to potential clients, they're like, oh wow, this is beautiful. Like you actually know how to work with print. But if you just have your like 4-color, print on demand business cards, it doesn't show that you're savvy and really understand the mechanics of reproduction in ways that are special. You can make people feel special and make emotional intimate connections through printed material. So that's really important. It's the same thing with the web too. I mean, you can have a gorgeous portfolio, but like, I don't know, the tagline for Mexicania's website is just like, we make stuff for forward-thinking humans. Like, it's stupid, but it's silly and it's personal, and it just kind of gives a sense of like, I'm a human, you're a human, let's talk. Instead of like, art direction and freedom and blah, blah, blah. Like, nobody cares. So, yeah. How you say what you say.
It goes down to every detail. Like your clothing, how, if you can shape into a meeting or not. That's all branding, right? So I guess, we all should think about it. You look great in the Gucci. This is your brand.
I'll ask the last question to start before we pass over to the audience. And that is, do you often come to events like this, such as CAP or the Tokyo Art Book Fair or Design Festa? And if you do you find that kind of event brings in work or not? Maybe it's a controversial question right now.
I don't have many, Tokyo Art Book Fair and this one now has been. I don't think I've had much work from it, but I got lots of good friends and that's welcome. So no.
The other way around. Through events like this, I've often met art directors and magazine writers, and as an illustrator, you're often really dependent on those two, because especially in editorial magazine work here, the art director isn't necessarily choosing all the images in magazines. The writers are often left to do the curation of their page layouts, and so usually just something really informal, or it could be someone who became a writer later and employed me. It'd be nice to everyone because the world is a small village. I don't know if you want that too.
Yeah, I think for me, opening the gallery, now this September we've been open 3 years in our current space. Having a gallery really is, with each artist we bring, sort of 50-50 Japanese and foreign artists, they bring a completely different type of person to each opening, to each show. So I'm kind of creating my own environment to meet people and attract different kinds of people, art directors, designers, painters. And so, it's great to be there, and it keeps me on my feet, always showing every 3 or 4 weeks a different artist or illustrator. It kind of gives me a kick up the arse to kind of be productive. So it's great to have my own space.
I think one thing that people neglect a lot of the time when thinking about these type of events, we think they're community events, and they are community events. But defining what a community is, which is a localized economy. And I know that I'm guaranteed to lose money having a table. I don't have a table today, but usually at Tokyo Art Book Fair I do lose money. But that's not the important thing. It's to ensure that that greater project is going. And it's an investment both financially and emotionally and socially with the people around.
We met in a table here.
Yeah, we met.
We became friends 6 years ago or something. Oh, yeah, you too. Absolutely.
So that's really, really, really important. And then also at the same time, it depends what your goals are. You know, like, I don't know, like, I make money from design work. I've been publishing zines for 30 years. And like, the thing is, like, you don't make money with self-publishing. It's the kind of thing you give away. Free gifts.
Gonna give you some goodies. Santa Claus.
Here's some books too. Anyone wants a book? Anyone? Okay, sorry. Louis just spiked this question I haven't asked yet. This is the last question. How has working freelance affected your personal life outside work?
I have no outside life.
Yeah, exactly that. You never switch off. It's hard to take a break or to relax. I'm always kind of looking for ideas and developing ideas and producing work. So yeah, I'm constantly making work. So if a job comes in suddenly, possibly I've got work that fits the brief already, and that sometimes happens for me. So I don't actually produce the illustration from the raw state. I've got something that fits the client's wishes, which is great. But that means I'm working all the time and having a gallery. Yeah, keeping the balance of the gallery and my personal work is pretty tough.
I've been drawing ever since I was a kid, so sort of this lifestyle really suits me. And the fact that a lot of your clients also feel like my friends too is an advantage of working in this way. So it's sort of rare because I think when I got out of university and I worked in graphic design in a company for about 6 months and just almost knew straight away that lifestyle wasn't going to work for me, and that in my family people have already gone and had a corporate career and been burnt out, and I sort of saw what happens to perhaps people who go into a big company, not necessarily because they want to, but because of the social expectations that you might have to do that. And, so I never had that belief in myself, but it certainly it's hard at the beginning when you don't have any success or any sort of milestones to point to that you can wonder about whether doing a late night project or something is worth it. But,
It's definitely never boring, is it? It's kind of, since I've been in Japan 13 years, it's been being freelance. It's been a series of incredible highs and incredible lows, but very little in the monotony line that doesn't really exist. I've not felt like that. And probably if I did, I'd go back to the UK.
I think the thing is to try to take control over your freelance existence. There's a half Japanese, half German media theorist who lives in Berlin, Hito Shiro, and she says that we're all free to fail. If you're a member of a freelance economy, you have to set your own rules and parameters, and you just have to really be strategic. So, like, you know, designers and illustrators are heavily dependent on software. So, how much is the Adobe Creative Suite a year? A month? 50 a month. So, like, basically, if you take Adobe stock is doing really well right now, if you take 40 months and you invest in Adobe stock, the dividends and returns on that will pay for your subscription. So it's just being smart and setting up systems where you're not trapped. It's instead of just writing it off for the client, really giving yourself agency and autonomy in a space where you're supposed to be a service provider, you have to really outthink that.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to hand over, so if anyone has any questions.
When I first moved here about 10 years ago, I was offered a chance to do some work for someone. He didn't want to pay for it. He wanted to introduce me to people. I guess unless I give you the details, it's probably hard to answer a question like that. But if you just came here, how would you feel about just making something for someone who can introduce you to some people? Is it maybe too big of a question? Would I have to include the fact that this person might know other people, might not?
You mean the question is, will you do something for them without being paid?
Yeah, I was requested.
No.
I was requested.
No.
I always regretted it. That I said no, and I always regretted it. I thought, well, I had time at that time in my life here. I had time to do things. I could have had a misadventure and just seen what happened. I kind of regret not,
Yeah.
I think having
that's,
experience.
I don't know. I mean, everybody's free to do what they want. And I think Ian will have a better answer than me. But every time I go to the bakery, I have to pay for my croissant. And every time I ask, I have the bread for free, and they never give it for free. So I have to charge as well.
All right, I'll tell you the story.
I knew you had a better answer.
Many, many years ago, I lived in this magical land called Portland, Oregon. This particular year, it rained for 200 days straight, and that has nothing to do with the story. Basically, a friend asked me to design the identity, the logo and website, etc. for her restaurant for free, and it was a Friday. She'd already been making me dinner. She was dating my roommate. I was like, yeah, I can do that. So I did that. Then she decided to change the name, and she was like, will you do it again? And I was like, okay. I did it again. And then she started a new restaurant, new locations, and she had a business partner. And then basically she went crazy, and her business partner asked me to do the identity. And he said, we have no money. And I said, no, I cannot do it for free, but I need 5% of the business and free food and drink for life. Now I'm part owner of one of the best restaurants on the West Coast. So it's equity. That's really, 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 really important. I was able to take that equity and sell it back to the partners, but it's just figuring it out. It's being strategic. Can you get out of it? They still get free food for life.
So let's say this guy was really well connected. You might actually this guy was super well connected. Can you cut like in this case the guy was a disc jockey and he wanted me to make a huge backdrop for his set. And I guess people would say, I don't know how well connected he was. So I guess in that case you don't know what kind of equity you're getting.
It's all super subjective. It just depends.
He was so well connected, and he didn't have money to pay you. He was so poor, and he was that well connected after all. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't have money. It's like, actually, the main, I don't want to pay you anymore.
And then another thing, culturally, like we're all obsessed with this like potential internal time travel, and we're always regretting things we didn't do or didn't. Just put it away. Time moves in one direction. All right, it's cool.
I guess I was just wondering, is there some way that he could have provided his half of the deal before you provided yours? So for example, I can do this work for you, but I need you to provide these introductions first.
Do what first?
So there was two sides to the deal, right? You were going to provide some kind of creative work for him, and he was going to provide you introductions to certain people. Was it possible that you could have some kind of contract? And then the other question is, really, I would question why this guy isn't willing to invest his own capital into the work, and then the question is whether he is going to really value the work that you do, and therefore evangelize your work basically as well. Is he going to value the work you do if he's not going to pay for it?
This I
some jobs which I've said no to because they didn't have a budget at the beginning, but the client had found the money sometimes 6 months or to a year later, and they came back once they did have money. So sort of drawing a line somewhere is important, I feel, but too. If you don't do that, then you sort of know that the person, the right kind of person, another kind of person who probably won't come back to you. One thing I've also noticed, like in the past 3 years, is that gradually, without me doing anything, the clients have been paying me slightly more for the same projects, like editorial work, perhaps my first year, something small might have only been $50, but then now somebody hates it, and that's without me saying anything. So sometimes people sort of give you a career too, without you necessarily having to follow it up.
Yeah, I mean, when I first arrived here, I've been working for a British techno group, and for them I've done, just once I've done some live painting. When I got to Japan, everyone said, "Oh, you're famous for live painting." I just did it once and it was very stressful. I said, "Yeah, I'll do it." He said, "There's no budget for it, but we'll give you loads of anything you want for materials." It was a massive sort of 2 or 3 meter space to paint live in a cloud. I thought, "Gosh, I'm not getting paid for this, but I got all these great pens and materials." And I did it, and then I got another job doing that, and again, "We can't pay you, but we can give you a load of good pens." And I thought, "Okay." I started getting a stock of pens, and eventually a company approached me and said, "We want you to customize our furniture, and we want you to do live painting on furniture. Well, of course we're going to pay you." So it kind of paid off in the end. And, yeah, so I've now done sort of paying jobs using that technique. I still don't enjoy it, it's still tough, but so sometimes those early freebies, at least I got the materials and they led to paying jobs.
Sometimes in lieu of payment, except for clothing and things too from companies. So yeah, you gotta find something that works for somebody.
Do you have any more questions?
I wanted to ask, since it seems to me that all of you had, let's say, set up your designer or artist, just your freelancer life before you came to Japan. So basically, you wouldn't have any specific advice on how to start freelancing in a country like Japan, because you have also you have the concerns of visa and your living expenses before you do the way to join.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I was lucky to have a big campaign when I arrived here, and so I got to meet the right people when I arrived. But having a gallery now, there's a lot of younger artists who want to come and live here and want to be freelance. And the problem is, a lot of their work is fantastic. Back home, they've got success and